Hi, in this video I'm going to talk to you about the Nikon Z6. The Z6 is part of Nikon's Z series mirrorless camera range. It offers a 24 megapixel full frame sensor. That full frame sensor gives you really good detail even at higher ISOs with an ISO range of 100 to 51,000, and you can expand that even higher if you need to as well. On that full frame sensor you'll find 273 phase detection autofocusing points. These focusing points are not just great for stills photography, but they're also great for video as well, which we'll talk about in a minute. When it comes to that autofocusing system in stills photography, the Z6, since its launch, has had a couple of firmware updates that's allowed it to improve its autofocus, but also add new features as well. Those new features that have been added are things like eye detect, and also animal eye and face detection as well, which means that you can allow the camera to follow and track a moving subject in front of you, and it will either keep their eye or their face in focus. That doesn't always have to be a human, it could also be cats and dogs from an animal point of view as well. If the subject you're trying to photograph doesn't have a face or eyes, you can also use what's called subject tracking. Now, subject tracking is the closest to what a lot of DSLR photographers might know as 3D tracking. What subject tracking will do is it allows you to lock onto a portion of a subject, and it will then follow that subject around the frame, making sure that they stay in focus at all times. You still have the traditional modes as well, so you can still use a dynamic mode, single point, and also pinpoint for macro and landscape photography. The autofocusing system offers lots of different options, and there's way more in-depth information than I could go into in this video here. But if you do have any questions about the Z series autofocusing system, then please do contact us to find out more. Also, from a stills photography point of view, the Z6 is incredibly quick to fire. It can fire at a maximum of 12 frames per second, which means that you have a much faster fire rate than you do than some of the other DSLRs, and also a much faster fire rate than you do than some of the other Z series cameras as well. So if it comes to a faster frames per second rate, the Z6 could be the camera that you need to look for. The Z6 can shoot completely silently. It has a full built-in silent mode that disables the mechanical shutter, and you would use an electronic shutter instead. So if you're shooting in a scenario where you need your camera to be as quiet as possible, shooting in silence is definitely something you can do with the Z6. The build quality and weather sealing of the Z6 is to the same level that you'll find on a D850 DSLR. So you can entrust in your Z6 allowing you to shoot even in worse weather conditions. Now, not only is the Z6 a great stills camera, but it's also a fantastic video camera. I'd go as far as to say it's actually one of the best video cameras that Nikon produces right now. It not only offers you the ability to shoot in full frame 4K that's super sampled from 6K, but it also allows you to shoot in 1080 at 120 frames per second, and you can also record to an external recorder. And when you use an external recorder through the HDMI cable, that will allow you to record in 4K at 10-bit 422, and you'll also be able to use N-Log as a log profile. With a paid-for upgrade, the Z6 can also shoot in ProRes RAW format. This is only available through the external recorder though. You cannot do this whilst recording internally. The same great autofocusing system we talked about in stills is also great from a video point of view. It works fantastically well at tracking and following a subject and keeping them in focus consistently. And when you add that in combination with the Z series lenses, which are all silent, it means you don't have to worry about the autofocus motor making a noise whilst you're shooting video. That can be a problem when it comes to some F-mount lenses, however, as their focus motors do generate noise. So if you're planning on using your Z6 through an FTZ adapter, just keep that in mind. You might have to do a bit of a move around with your audio because older Nikon lenses won't be as silent as the newer Z series lenses. The Nikon Z6 is a great camera option, not only for photographers, but also for people interested in video as well. If you have any further questions about the Nikon Z6, then please make sure you can either ask us that in the chat, or you can also ask us that in one of our live Q&A sessions that we'll be hosting throughout the photography show online. Thank you very much for watching.